So I wanted to do a little demo on a sketch plan to show you how you might prepare an illustrated sketch plan using pen, markers, and pencil crayons. I know some of you would like to practice your analog sketching skills, and maybe you feel that a digital rendered plan is too much for you to take on right now. So I wanted to give you guys this video to show you that even a hand-drawn sketch can get you pretty far. This type of drawing is particularly useful for discussing your concepts and planting designs with your instructors because it's properly scaled and you can understand the impact of the planted spaces, paths, and garden elements that you're creating. So there's always a place for freehand sketching, but a lot of the time in design we really want to be working off of properly scaled background drawings to test our ideas further, refine them, or quickly iterate on the feedback that we've received. I had to go pretty far back in my projects to find something that was the right scale to demo on because a lot of the projects I work on are pretty large scale, but this is a cool garden called the Sky Park. That's basically a garden over top of a rail corridor in Toronto. It has some really beautiful shapes and botanical mounds, and I thought that would be a really fun project to try illustrating. So I'm starting here with a digital line work plan that was originally drawn in AutoCAD. And I would highly recommend that you guys do work between digital and analog because practicing your drawing skills in all the ways that you know how is really important. So get your basic shapes onto your sites and show stairs, ramps, planting areas, paving areas, and anything else that's important. You can always adjust the shapes of these things through sketching over top, which is what I did on this first sketch layer here. I wasn't super satisfied with the tree placements and the planting outlines from the original line work, so I've just sketched out some alternative shapes, and that's going to be the basis for my layered sketches in this tutorial. So make sure that you have added in your trees to your line work plan. Just circles is fine right now since you're going to illustrate over top. So I've started by taping down the original line work, and I'm going to work in layers. I'm using Design Vellum from a letter size pad. You can use sketch paper too, but vellum ends up with a cleaner result. I have my technical pens here, 0.1, 0.3, 0.5, and 0.8. I keep them in order at the top so that I know which one I am going to reach for. I also have my lead pointer so I can do some shading, and I have a few markers. These ones have two tips and they're great for outlining and shading. I also have a bunch of pencil crayons based on the general colors in my planting palette. So we're going to sketch in layers here, and I've taped a fresh sheet of vellum over top of my line work. I started outlining the shapes of the trees here, and I'm just going to use my 0.1 technical pen to go around the outlines of these trees. I'm going to draw the edge a bit jagged around these trees and this clump them all together instead of drawing them individually. I started over here in this demo, but usually want to start from the upper left and move to the bottom right when you're working in analog because pens and paper can smudge easily. So I'll go back up here to the corner and work my way down. Now we can see the tree massing very clearly, and I'm going to use my 0.5 pen to dot in the trunk locations. So we're drawing in layers, which means we take the objects that are closest to us in the viewing plane as the first layer. I'm going to show you a few different ways that you can add shadows to these trees. I always add shadows in the direction that's easiest for me to draw, which is up and to the right. I'll go in first with my lead pointer and do a few offset circles where the shadows would fall, just so I have something to aim for. Then I can take my 0.1 or 0.3 technical pen and hatch in the shadows with diagonal lines. Another way is to use a marker. This is green gray 9, and you can use either tip. The chisel is the easiest way. Make sure that the chisel tip is at the angle you want to move up in, and then just drag it around the tree. it creates a little crescent moon shape. You can also use the fine point if you don't feel confident in your chisel point skills, but this takes a bit longer. Another way to do shadows is to sketch out the same jagged edge offset from the tree and shade it in with a lead. It depends on how strong you want your shadows to read overall. If we lift the page here, you can see the effect that each technique has. I think I'm going to go in with the chisel edge because it's faster and easier for me. So the trees look pretty good. If you're doing a real presentation sketch, you want to use a consistent method for the shadows, of course. And I might go in and add a little extra texture, just some light hatching on the shadows to define them more, and a little more definition in the tree canopy. I like to dot in some shade on the far side of the tree to really show the canopy being shaded. And this is a smaller scale drawing, but if this was a full 1:100 plan, I would probably be able to get even more detail into the tree canopies with a few little openings and even some branches poking through. But for our sketch, I think this looks pretty good for a shadow layer. So I'm going to take this layer off and put a new piece of vellum on, and then we can look more in depth at the planting areas below.